Hi, everybody. I'm Linda. Welcome back to No Deliveries Here, or welcome to No Deliveries Here. Today is Saturday, and it's about 12:30 in the afternoon. And in this pot right here, I have my pectin and my blueberries because today is blueberry jam making day. I've got my canner with my lids, canner with my jars. This jam is water bath canned. So I've got my jars in there so they stay nice and hot. Jam is going to be hot, so remember, hot food, hot jars, and hot canner, cold food, cold jars, cold canner. So anyway, we're doing the first of, I believe I've got enough blueberries for 4 batches. So I had a comment, someone left a comment on my previous video about if I could talk about how we ended up with what it was like living off grid to go, without anything. And I'm just stirring my stuff here to get it to a boil. So, and I had actually already been thinking about that to try and explain how we went from subways, traffic jams, and winters in New York and Brooklyn, and crowds and concrete jungle and all of that. And then we my husband was in Manhattan and I was in Brooklyn. Ironically, we probably ran into each other when we were younger and never even knew it. I left Brooklyn. We had moved to Miami, but I was back and forth between my Miami and with my parents in Brooklyn. Long story, lots of abuse. So I was back and forth, and my last trip to Miami after I graduated and I was doing school, and then I realized school is really expensive. I ended up enlisting in the military. Now, my husband's a couple of years younger than me. So I was in the military, I got married, I acquired a stepson who I ended up adopting, and he's mine now, and 2 other children, and then a divorce. So I was back and forth between Miami with my leaving my kids at my parents'. They were safe there. Leaving my kids with my parents, and while I was doing military stuff. And in that time, my husband and his mom had moved to Florida. So I was on leave one day, and that's how I met my husband. So that's that story, kind of quick, roundabout, and a little complicated. But anyway, that's how I met my husband. I finished out my time in the service. So I finished that out, and I got my discharge. I'm honorably discharged. Yay me. And yay me for surviving basic training. It was very different, but for this Brooklyn girl. So after that, we were in Florida, and it was just crowded. We were in Miami, the Miami Homestead area, and it was really crowded. It was hot back then. The mosquitoes were terrible, and we were thinking about moving back up north. Ironically, Hurricane Andrew made that decision for us. We lost everything. We were not that far away from Homestead Air Force Base. We were in the Homestead area, and Andrew really demolished that area. So we lost everything. Our furniture was actually like toothpicks and pickup sticks and boxes. So we decided to go back up north, and we thought we would try a simpler life. So we ended up in Vermont, in a rural area in the country, but definitely not like we are now. We did have a dirt road, but it wasn't secluded. I actually had neighbors and things like that. So we were there, and it was getting really, really cold, and we wanted to do other things, and the area wasn't zoned for to get a Jersey cow, and I had always wanted a Jersey cow. There was just something about those eyes on a Jersey cow. So we looked around, and we ended up someplace else, and it was rural again in the country, but we were able to have lots of animals. We had 2 Jersey cows, Maggie and Gretchen. We had 2 goats, beautiful, I believe it's pronounced Sanin, white, pure white goats, Morgan and Merlin, beautiful horns on both of them. We had 2 pigs, Ralph and Norton from the Honeymooners, and we had guineas, we had egg layers, we had meat birds, and then we had some fancy birds like English bantams. Sir Freckles was an English bantam. So we had all sorts of birds, different colors, type the silkies, the feather-footed, all of that. We had geese, mean buggers. I have so many stories about the geese. And then, of course, well, we had a dog. We had a couple of cats. I think we had like 4 cats. And then the kids had their regular pets, which was hamsters and gerbils and guinea pigs. And we had a fish tank. So we were there and we had an awesome garden. We did great with our garden and we had the cows, and it was a learning experience. And I was only supposed to bring home 1 cow, and I brought home 2. And I brought home the goats that my husband didn't even know about. And I brought home the geese that he didn't know about either until after the fact. But we were doing really, really good. And again, the winters were getting worse and worse and worse. And we had 140 acres, and it was a large upkeep, and there was just a lot. So we decided to not go all the way south, but definitely get out of the north and go like somewhere in between. And we do experience all 4 seasons, and I have mountains and hardwood forest. So, and we ended up here, and we did have some egg layers when we got here. We didn't know that there were lots of critters here that would attack the chickens because we just didn't have those up north. And then we did have some dairy goats. I had Alpine, Nubians. There's another one. I believe it starts with an O. It looks like a deer. They're all brown. I think it's an Obershawn maybe. And I had pygmies, and we had a garden. And it was a fight to have to deal with everything here that attacked the garden, because when we lived up north in both places, we never had a problem with deer getting into the garden. We honestly didn't. We didn't have anything like that. We didn't have a lot of the insects that were here. We didn't have skunks and possums that would go after the chickens, or 6-foot black snakes that would go after everything. So, and then we also went from always being connected to the grid to barely having enough panels and batteries to just charge a cell phone. You know, we were with oil lamps and flashlights and candles and hauling water because the water wasn't coming all the way to the cabin, and the cabin needed a lot of work. It didn't even have a kitchen or anything. There was no water coming in. There was actually an outhouse here. It didn't have a bathroom. We had to hook up an outside solar shower. So we went from subways, traffic jams, hurricanes, and all of that to being completely secluded, almost 6 miles from the nearest neighbor, 3 miles from the nearest 1-lane road, no neighbors, hardwood forest, and bears that will sit on my roof, 6-foot black snakes, skunks, possums. We didn't have possums up north. So it has truly, truly been an adventure. So anyway, I was thinking about doing that video when I got that comment that I saw last night. So what I decided to do was, in the comment section of this video, if you will leave all your questions about how I got here, how we got here, how we managed with 2 of our 5 children still at home. Our oldest, our son, he had gone into the Navy, and our other 2 had finishing up high school. They finished up early, and they were on their own in school. So it was just us and our two youngest. But if you have questions about what it was like going from Brooklyn and Manhattan to the country, and I think that movie Funny Farm with Chevy Chase, and I think her name was Madeline Smith, I think. And if questions, anything about what it was like going from the big city and subways to there are tractors on the road, and it's 2.5 hours to the nearest grocery store one way. So leave your questions down below. I'm going to continue making my jam. I have about 3 more batches after this. I have 30 pounds of potatoes to do and some butternut squash. And I'm hoping to get as much done, especially the jams, and maybe half of the potatoes before tomorrow, as Monday the 13th, my Azure order will be in. And I have to be there to meet the truck at 7:45 in the morning. Azure drop-off is where I do my grocery shopping. So figure 2 hours, 15 minutes, 2.5 hours there. So I'll be leaving my house at 5:15 in the morning on Monday to go get my Azure order, and I will share that. But if you leave your comments, excuse me, and any questions that you might have below, I will work on answering all of those and do a video with the answers to those questions and any other info I can add as to what it was like to go from being a Brooklyn city girl and a Miami city girl to living in the forest with no water coming to the house, barely any electricity, and an outhouse. So I'm going to go do my jam right now. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.